Hey you guys, it's Heather Schieffer from Heather Marie Creative LLC. Um, I'm not doing this one live uh, because this one I needed to talk a few more minutes about. I'm going to talk a little bit about something I mentioned earlier in the month, which is customer avatars. Um, and if you've been following my content this month, a lot of it's been about investing in your business and in your customers and your audience. So I'm not just talking about investing money because it's not all about spending money on the marketing. A lot of it is about spending the time and just taking the time to think about what you're doing, which admittedly I am awful at. I'm really terrible at planning or taking the time to plan. I just want to jump right in and get the things done. Um, so I understand how hard it is to sort of set that time aside. So I wanted to talk a little bit about customer avatars. Now, I don't think a lot of people use these. They know what a target audience is, but when you ask them for customer avatars, I don't think they understand what that is. So we all know, or most of us know, what an avatar is online, right? So an online avatar is, very specifically speaking, a graphic representation of a person online. So in the comments section, sometimes people will have little, you know, graphic representations of who they are. Your profile photo on Facebook, it's kind of an avatar. It's something that represents you as a person in some other space, right? If you think about it in gaming terms, your avatar can be completely different from who you really are. So if any of you game online or play role-playing games, you'll understand where I'm going with this, I think. You create a whole nother identity. You create a whole nother person. You get to choose their race, and a lot of times it's not even human. um, their abilities, their strengths, their weaknesses, where they're from. It it can go into all kinds of detail. So what I've created for you guys, um, and it was an investment of my time in my audience, was a customer avatar workbook, and it's not just a checklist. This is an actual book, and let's see, the content is actually 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 pages in this book where you actively fill in information. So it's not just a checklist. It doesn't just, like, you know, give you stuff to check off. You actually write things down in here. And you keep it forever and ever. And you print more than one of these. And I'll explain to you why in a minute. So I've kind of explained to you what an avatar is. Now, a customer avatar, it's going to be very, very similar. It's going to be an imaginary person who represents your ideal customer in real life. Okay? And maybe you get the inspiration for a couple of these avatars from actual customers. Maybe you start with one who's very similar to yourself if you have an interest in what you sell. If you might be one of your ideal customers, start there. It might make it a little bit easier. Now, why you should invest in customer avatars isn't quite as obvious as, what they are. So I found when I filled mine out, because I've never actually filled one out before, I kind of in my head have a few different avatars, but never really defined them for myself. And when I filled this out, to make sure it made sense for all of you, I found that the one I created kind of became, in a limited sense, a real person to me. You empathize with them and you connect with them, if you allow yourself, which I recommend you do. And the reason that's a good thing is that your messaging is going to be more targeted and creating more specific targeted messages that are speaking to individual people rather than just masses of people makes your message more personal to them, and in turn makes it more effective, right? As much as we like to think the world revolves around money and things like that, the money really, I think, is motivated by emotion and feeling and connection. They're not, unless it's something they absolutely need, like a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk, they don't need to think about where they get that as much, because they need it. They're going to go get it probably from the most convenient source. But something a little more not necessary, like branding, which is necessary, but it's not viewed that way. You might have to explain to them or build trust with them, or maybe they need to see your face and say, you know, I really kind of like the stuff that that person says, or the way they do business, or their message, right? So making that connection and making it more personal is the biggest why for me. It also doesn't hurt to put yourself in somebody else's shoes for a minute, right? And not just from a marketing standpoint or a business standpoint, but as a human being. So once you fill out a few of these, what exactly do you do with them? Are they just going to sit around in a file folder and, you know, you visit them every so often? No. You're going to use them, and it might not click right away. I'm a slow thinker. I have to digest information, and it might take a few days for me to go, that's what I'm going to do with that. This is the best way to use that tool. So the things you're going to use this for are, you're going to use it for ad copy when you're writing ads, when you're deciding where to place ads. Depending on who you're talking to, not all of your customer avatars are going to live in the same place. Maybe you offer more than one service or more than one product. Maybe you have some people who are going to live, you know, on the west side in a more, you know, urban setting. If you're listening from Spartanburg, you know what I'm talking about. And the east side is a little more quiet and gets a little more rural. And then you have the north and the south side, which have some historic districts and some lower income districts. So you're not going to place ads for high price services and high price items necessarily on the north side, where income is a little lower. And generally speaking, people on, you know, in that part of town aren't starting businesses. Or maybe you have, that would be my specific niche anyway. Or maybe you advertise a lower price option or something on that side of town, as opposed to where lots of businesses are starting up downtown and on the west side. I might focus my more high price packages, you know, my bigger items on that side of town if I were going to place ads over there. You're also going to use this stuff to think about writing any content, really, any message to your customers. So your email, your blog posts, the content on your website, not just the blog posts on your website, but the static content on your website also speaks to people. Granted, that's going to be a little more generalized, but knowing these people, knowing that you have these specific avatars is going to help you figure out what to say and how to say it. I'm terrible about that. I just talk and talk and talk, and sometimes I don't even know what my message is. So even, you know, someone coming from this place, me myself, you know, I'm kind of all over the place. You know, I struggle to find my own messaging, even though it might be way more obvious to me what your messaging ought to be. So I filled out my own customer avatar workbook, okay? And it starts off with giving them a name. I call her Jackie B. Um, she's a 35-year-old woman. Um, she has a 4-year business degree. She likes to design jewelry, but she's working out of her home. Um, she and her spouse together bring in a little more than 150,000 a year. They're married. They have a couple middle school age kids. She's got some time now to spend on her business. Um, this is the kind of stuff you're going to think about. And then it gets even more detailed. So then it wants to know about Jackie's aspirations, her goals, and her desires. What does she want? Not just professionally, maybe, from my standpoint. What does she want? You know, she wants to be independent. She doesn't want to worry about income or retirement or her kids' college or anything like that, which spills over into her professional life. And this is the stuff you're going to think about because, in essence, these are the things I'm helping not so much to solve for her, but helping her kind of overcome and helping her prepare for through building a business. Yours is probably going to be a little bit different. And it asks all kinds of questions. Where do they hang out? How do they make decisions? What are some of their challenges and what are some of the reasons they could think of for not buying from you? Relationship-wise, what are they looking for from you? How do you talk to them? How do you overcome these specific challenges for them? Which ones do you overcome? Do you help them accomplish a goal? And then in the end, it asks you if you have anything in common with this person outside of what you want to sell them. And I found that when I started filling this out, I had a client of mine kind of in mind to help me sort of get started. But it turns out she's a lot like me. So, you know, she finally has some time to spend on her business and she's married and they make a decent amount of money, but she really needs to make this work in order to be, you know, to consider herself a viable professional business owner, right? Which is a hard thing to overcome. So when it asked me if I had anything in common with her, I thought, well, I could very well be her, really. So you're going to find that some of these people that you create and imagine, they're probably going to have some things in common with you. And when you think about it, that's going to help you craft your messaging and write your content. When you're thinking about what they need and you're thinking about how you're going to help them, how you're going to serve them rather than how you're going to make money, I think it helps us be more effective and empathetic, and that, you know, kind of nurtures a connection and a kind of trust in our audience and our prospective clients. So that is my explanation of what a customer avatar is, why you should spend a little bit of time and fill a few of these out. Like I said, you can download this for the price of your email address. That's all I ask. And then you can even unsubscribe. But it's really, especially for someone coming from where I'm coming from, never having filled one of these out, it helped me even see where I might be, you know, missing some things. And I'm going to go back and fill like 2 or 3 more of these out because I know I don't have just one customer, right? I have a lot of different clients. Even if the bulk of your clients you figure are probably about the same or very alike, you're going to find that they might not all be. They might be very different in some ways, and they might be very like you, and they might be very different from you. So go ahead and download that. It's on my website below this video if you're on my website. Click the link, enter your email address. Let me know what you think of it. If you think anything can be improved, let me know because I will update this if I get requests of that sort. And then Let me know if you need help using your customer avatars, because essentially that's what I do, right? Right. So thanks for watching. You can follow me on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, and on my website, heathermarie.design. Thanks, you guys. Bye.